What's going on YouTube? Super Insane 18 here, and sometimes you don't necessarily want to play a meta deck, but you still want to have fun and win. So that's why today we are going to talk about the top 5 sleeper decks for this current format. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Coming in at number 5, we have Bee Trooper. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is a deck that I really do not know too much about. I did a lot of research going into it for this video, and I think it is something that is worth looking at. Now, with this deck, you're not going to have a wide variety of interruptions. You are only going to have a handful of monster negates and a DD Crow that is searchable, but the follow-up for this deck is absolutely incredible. Not only can you search additional starters and extenders for your next turn, but the field spell is essentially just a monster reborn, and even though you're locked into insects, going into your second turn, you can usually find a way around that, getting into an access code talker along with your just high attack insect monsters like Doomdozer, and that will allow you to clear a board and swing for game. The way that this deck can swarm the field is definitely very oppressive, and if you want to have a little bit of fun while playing probably the only good insect deck that we've had since Insectors way back in the day, I would definitely recommend taking a look into Bee Trooper. Coming in at number 4, we have Cyber Dragon. Now, Cyber Dragon is a little bit of a bad-mannered deck because you are just going to fuse using the monsters that your opponent controls more often than not. We're in a format where most of the top decks are going to end on an Appaloosa, which is going to have anywhere from 2 to 4 negates, and the fact that you can just special summon a Cyber Dragon or even normal summon a Cyber Dragon core, not activating any effects, and contact fuse using their Appaloosa, just getting rid of a good handful of the negates that your opponent has, is a little bit oppressive to say the least. Not just that, but the fact that this deck can inherently make Cyber Dragon Infinity is very good. You're not only able to just have an Omni negate, but you can suck up high threat monsters that your opponent controls. As a blind going second deck, it's also really cool that you are able to search cards like Jizukiru, which will out problem cards such as Dragoon or the upcoming Phoenix Enforcer from the Burst of Destiny set. And honestly, even if your opponent makes you go first, you still have pretty good lines of play. Again, being able to make the Cyber Dragon Infinity as well as something like Dragoon, it just gives you a good way to keep your board while not letting your opponent set one up as well. Cyber Dragon has definitely earned its spot as a sleeper deck for this current format. Now, in the middle of the pack, we have Orchest. The specific profile that I'm going to put up on the screen is the Scrap Orchest deck profile that I featured on my channel last week. That being said, there are various variants of Orchest that are definitely worth checking out. You still have Pure Orchest, you can play Phantom Knight Orchest, and coming up soon with the release of Burst of Destiny, you can even reliably play Rocket Orchest. For those of you that don't know, they are getting a card called Rocket Caliber. What this does is it special summons itself to a zone that a Dark Link monster points to, and then you contribute itself to summon a Dark or Machine type monster from your hand. So it is just another extender, and it is something that I'm going to be looking forward to and probably making a deck profile on, but Orchest can definitely be very oppressive. Now, for those of you that haven't seen the video, what you can do with this particular Scrap Orchest deck is you can typically end on an Appaloosa made off of 2 materials, a Dingirsu, a Predaplant Verte Anaconda, and an El Shadal Winda. Now, the Dingirsu is going to prevent the Winda from being destroyed by the instant fusion effect that is lingering with the Predaplant Verte Anaconda, but that isn't all. On your opponent's standby phase, you can use the effect of Orchest Nightmare in your graveyard, banishing it to send a copy of Gizmek Orochi, targeting your Appaloosa and bumping it up by 800 attack, which just so happens to give it another negate. So even though it's only made on 2 materials, you are ending on 3 negates and your opponent can only special summon once. That sounds pretty good going into this format considering everything is going to be special summoning a bunch. We have 2 of the top decks being Drytron and Tri-Brigade, so giving them only 1 special summon can definitely hinder their strategies. Our second top sleeper deck for this upcoming format is actually going to be Antipater. Now, I do apologize to you guys, I am not going to be showing you a deck profile in this video. The reason for that is that this upcoming Friday, I do plan on dropping a dedicated video for the Antipater deck because I think this deck is just something worth giving its own video to. Honestly, I counted this deck out entirely. I thought it was dead like everybody else did when they banned Block Dragon way back in the day, but this is honestly just an absolutely insanely incredible deck. So I'm really looking forward to showing you guys that. Unfortunately, since I'm not showing you the profile here, I don't really have too much that I can say because I don't want to spoil anything, but you can make some very, very oppressive boards with this deck. Before going into our top sleeper deck for this format, I do want to give an honorable mention, and that is going to be Altergeist. Altergeist is a very good and consistent strategy, mostly because a lot of your turns you're just going to be setting 5 and passing and waiting for your opponent to just run headfirst into your back row. And with Burst of Destiny coming up, for those of you that don't know, there is a card in the set called Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card can protect all of your face down back row from being destroyed, so cards like Twin Twister and Lightning Storm are almost entirely useless if you happen to see this card, but that isn't it. This can also summon itself as a beat stick, and when it does, it allows you to set a spell or trap from your deck. This is incredible because if you want a card like Solemn Strike, you can get Solemn Strike. If you want something like Iron Wall to prevent your opponent from banishing, that's going to be phenomenal against the upcoming Floowandery strategy that is also coming out in Burst of Destiny. Now, pair that with cards like Multifaker that are going to get you cards like Soliquidus to your field, which will allow you to just have additional interruptions on top of your back row. I definitely think that this can be a very annoying and very viable strategy moving forward. And finally, the #1 sleeper deck for this format is going to be Phantom Knight. Phantom Knight is a deck that just plays an absolute ton of extenders and sets up a load of negates. The fact that you can make cards like Appaloosa and Dragoon so easily, and there's almost nothing that your opponent can do to stop you, is a little insane. Even if they do something like Nibiru you can just turn that Nibiru token into a Link Spider, summon one of your many extenders, and still end your turn on Dragoon with possibly back row, because you have cards like Silent Boots that are going to search you Fog Blades, which are just Fiendish Chains. They're extra negates that your opponent aren't going to be able to play through, and it's just a very good and consistent deck. Ignoring the fact that this deck can just negate everything your opponent knows and loves, it also has very good attack ability. You run cards like Access Code Talker and even Zeus that can just completely demolish your opponent's boards and swing for high amounts of damage. I definitely think that this deck is all around a very good option. It has pretty much everything you need: a bunch of extenders, a way to game your opponent, a way to prevent them from playing the game, and that's really everything that you're looking for in one of the top decks that you would want to play. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 sleeper decks for this current Yu-Gi-Oh format. I hope you guys enjoyed. It definitely took a lot of research and effort on my part looking into these decks and compiling a list of what I think isn't necessarily meta, but definitely viable to fight against the meta with and still steal some wins when you can. If you liked it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and maybe even consider backing me on Patreon. It would vastly support the channel, and words cannot express how much I would appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.